Hello there. I hope you're doing well. My name is Shauna McGrath. I'm an astrologer in San Diego, California. And in this video, I want to share with you a bit about the new moon in Scorpio that's happening tonight. And also the I wanted to frame the moment that we're in. So yes, the new moon in Scorpio is tonight, but we're also moving into eclipse season, and Mercury and Mars are freshly out of their retrograde. They're currently direct. And I want to talk about what Jupiter and Saturn are doing as well. So sort of, again, kind of framing where we are within the context of the rest of this year and then moving forward. And then also, I wanted to share with you a little preview of my 2021 moon journal as well, which I'm very excited about. So I'm recording this live on Instagram so that I can connect with some of you. Hi Leah, hi Angels. So leave me a comment and let me know how you're doing. If you've been following me for a little bit, you know that I've taken a bit of a break from making videos and just from being on social media, and I've missed being able to connect with you. So let me know how you're doing and where you're tuning in from. Hi everyone. Okay, so first things first. Today is the new moon in Scorpio. So today is the 14th. The new moon is exact at 9:07 p.m. Pacific time tonight. And so Scorpio is about regeneration. It's about getting into like the nitty gritty, like what's really going on underneath the surface. Oftentimes this looks like psychological work. It looks like becoming aware, like I want to say becoming sometimes shockingly or sometimes uncomfortably aware of something that has been happening or something that you've been doing where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that this is what has actually been going on. Like that is what Scorpio energy is like. Scorpio energy is about discovering something that has been hidden and something that may feel sort of like it's a pattern or it is like there's a psychological component to it. Scorpio has this inherently psychological component, and it is also associated with power. Power, authority, autonomy, how it is that we bond, and how it is that we have power within the relationship and within ourselves when it is that we bond at a very deep level, how it is that we share our resources. So these are all themes that may be coming up with this new moon and then over the course of the next month or so. So the number, so I'll have some tips towards the end of this. The first sort of like preview tip, I guess, that I would say is if you want to work with this energy, if you want to work with this new moon, this lunar cycle, I would look at where you have Scorpio in your birth chart, so which house, because that's going to tell us about where something new is beginning. And the other part of this is that Mercury is currently in Scorpio, and Venus will move into Scorpio later this month. So there's a lot of Scorpio energy that has already been present with Mercury being retrograde in this area. Mercury was retrograde in Scorpio and then back into Libra. It's now moved forward into Scorpio. Mercury is direct, but it's always, I think it's always interesting to keep in mind as we move forward what happened during that retrograde period. And especially so since we're having a new moon here. So I think that you can take what it is that you learned over the last, let's say like 4 weeks. What has been changing? What has been, like difficult even? And so you can look at this just by looking at your life, like what kinds of things have been happening. If you work with your birth chart, you can also look at the house that Scorpio is in. If you don't know what time you're born, you can take the moon as your rising sign and count it by there. So yeah. So I have a little more to say about that, but I just want to say hi to everyone. Hi, it's nice to see you all. Hi, Valerie. Hi, Mama. Hi, Savannah. Yoga Bing. Hi, Ethel. Hi, Jella and Priscilla. Great to have you here. So Scorpio is a theme that's been happening because Mercury has been retrograde here, and now there is an opportunity to renew, an opportunity to plant new seeds, an opportunity to reinvent something and to allow it to grow over the course of the next month and even further. So I wonder, what does that look like for you? I will also say that I want to talk about the ruler of this moon as well. So I'll also say that Scorpio tends to require some amount of patience, or that's helpful, because these things that come up when we're working with Scorpio energy, they are things that have been laying latent for a long period of time. And so Scorpio energy can feel quick, it can feel cutting, but there is always this deep intensity when we're working with Scorpio energy. Like, this is psychology. Psychology is deep and intense, and it is something that you could work with over the course of your lifetime, and I hope that you do. So this requires time. It requires going through things even over and over again and coming back to a certain issue, not because you did something wrong or because you didn't master it or you didn't learn a lesson, but coming back to who it is that you are and being yourself in a slightly different way, being yourself in maybe a different situation, being yourself, a different version of yourself in a similar situation. So I hope that makes sense. And I do want to talk about Mars, because Mars is the ruler of this new moon. So I use traditional rulerships, so I see Mars as the ruler of Scorpio. So Mars is a planet that is about action, about physical action, muscle, energy, doing something. It has an instinctual energy to it. It's about acting, not necessarily thinking. Now Mars is also freshly direct. So Mars was retrograde for, I think about 2 months or so, in the sign of Aries. So it is still in Aries, and because it has it's just moved into its direct motion, it is still very, very slow. So what does this mean? Action, Mars, has been like sort of going backwards from our view, from our vantage point. There's this like pivoting point where there's a stop and then an action to move forward. So I think that's another layer with this new moon, because the ruler is sort of paused. It's changing direction and it's moving slowly. So I want you to keep that in mind also. If you remember, we had Mars square Saturn earlier this year. So in summer, like summer, early fall, Mars will square Saturn. And that's a difficult transit because that is also about wanting to act, Mars, and then meeting challenges or meeting resistance or meeting boundaries, Saturn. So we'll get a chance to, so that aspect is not present right in this moment, but we're going to return to that in the coming months. And so I want you to keep that in mind. Ethel says, I have Sun and Neptune in Scorpio, also in the second house. Yeah, so Ethel, for you, this is a renewal around second house of finances, of your assets, your income even. Second house is also associated with self-esteem as well, like, and what it is that you value. Especially important for you since your Sun is there as well. Preventing stress says, I also have Scorpio ruling my second house. Yeah, so for both of you, this is, there's a financial situation to look at. Either finances or second house, I also see as an indicator of self-esteem. And, this is all, of course, correlated, tied in with money. So those are important things to look at for you right now. Okay, so let's see. So we talked about Mars, and I'm going to take a sip of water. Okay, so moving out, moving a bit broader than just this month, than just this new moon. We are moving into eclipse season soon. So we'll have an eclipse in Gemini and Sagittarius. Now those dates for you, let's see, November 29th/30th this year we'll have a lunar eclipse in Gemini. And then December 14th we will have a total solar eclipse in Sagittarius. And so eclipse, the entire eclipse season, so essentially when the sun is in the sign of Sagittarius for our purposes for this particular season, when the sun is in Sagittarius at this point in time, this season, it's still in Scorpio, of course, but this eclipse season, there is a feeling of change. There is a feeling of instability. Instability because there is a tendency for change to happen very rapidly and unexpectedly, and it can feel sort of like things come out of nowhere. Now I find that the more that someone has a heightened intuitive sense, or if they do a lot of self-reflection, they tend to already sense like something is happening, something is going on. And so maybe that's you, maybe you feel like this pending change. We could also say this is happening at a global scale as well, but just personally, we want to look at what's happening with Gemini and with Sagittarius in your chart as well, because these are the centers of rapid and dramatic change during this eclipse season. So late November, early December. So I don't share this with you to like freak you out, to say that things are going to be scary or challenging, but it is a feeling of instability. And so I want you to know that may come up and that's normal. And I have some tips for you to really work with this as well. So it's kind of interesting because I feel that at this point we have just worked some pretty intense retrogrades. So we had Mercury retrograde and Mars retrograde, where there was a lot around like rethinking and reevaluating. And now we have this new moon in Scorpio, which is very deep, like really going into what is it that is important to you? What is within your psychology that has you placed in these certain situations and events that are happening in your life? How much of this is your psychology? How much of this is your upbringing and your circumstances in life, like the things that you have no control over? How much do you have control over? Those are all Scorpio questions. And then moving forward, we're going into this opportunity to change. So now again, I want you to really, going forward late November, early December, be paying attention to the areas of life where Gemini and Sagittarius are present in your chart. Especially Sagittarius, there is a renewal because that's going to be a new moon solar eclipse. So that's I just want you to be like thinking forward. Okay, so next I want to talk about, or I have a little bit more to say about that, but I want to see what you guys have to say here. Savannah says, your information is so helpful for planning my weeks. That's great to hear. Angel says, I've been feeling that. Ethel, totally. Preventing stress says, Gemini rules my 9th house. Yeah, so The other part of this too is that Gemini is where we're going to have a lunar eclipse, November 29th, 30th this year. So a lunar eclipse is also a full moon. Lunar eclipse and full moon, always that's how it happens together. When we have a solar eclipse, think solar sun, it's a new moon. So when we have a lunar eclipse full moon, that is a culmination of events. So you may find that something comes to fruition, or there is an opportunity. It's like we think full of like culmination, fullness, brightness. It is maximum capacity. So so Gemini in the 9th house, when that full moon lunar eclipse happens, that could be a culmination of 9th house things, such as publication or speaking or writing or having your ideas, like having an opportunity to present your ideas in a more public way. 9th house is also associated with university, education, and it's associated with travel, but that's not really in the mix for us right now. So, we figure out how it can manifest. Now, in contrast, the solar eclipse, the new moon solar eclipse on December 14th, that's in Sagittarius. So that is more about something beginning, like a new opportunity that you may not realize how pivotal it is until 6 months, a year later. So I think this is an important distinction, because with the lunar eclipse, it tends to symbolize events which are big and dramatic and noticeable in that moment. It can also be where there is something that feels in the moment like a loss or like a falling away, or maybe you decide to end something, to stop something, versus the solar eclipse, new moon solar eclipse, that is more quiet, I feel, and it's more like there's just this little thing that happens and you probably won't even notice it. So like an example of that would be maybe you connect with someone. You meet someone at through a group event or an organization, or, just like passing, and then, but you don't realize that this connection leads to maybe an opportunity down the road, or they become a really great friend. And initially it's like, we don't know what can happen. So I hope that makes sense. Let's see. Angel says, I'm a Sag rising in my first house. Yeah, so Sag rising for you, this means that the new moon solar eclipse is in your first house. So this is a renewing of you. So that's really cool. Ethel, Sagittarius moon. Yeah, when we're talking about eclipses or any transit really, I put a lot of emphasis on the house that something falls in. You need to know your birth time for that. If you don't know your birth time, you can use the moon as your rising. But also, you want to pay attention to what planets you have either in these signs or an aspect to these signs. It's how do I say? It's a whole picture, okay? So there's always a lot happening and a lot of details. It's not just one little part. So I hope that makes sense. I feel like I'm not always able to do that justice via something like this. That's something that we dig into more when I do a one-on-one astrology consultation. Let's see. Betul says, thank you. I was feeling those changes. Nat, hi from Cairo. Awesome. RB, this is so helpful. Gemini moon. Yeah. Cool. Hi everyone. It's so great to see you here. Yes, Alyssa, I am recording this, and so this will be posted later on my IGTV, on Instagram, and then also on YouTube. So don't worry if you missed the first bit. Okay, so let's talk about Jupiter and Saturn. So we're moving out in the layers. We're starting from the center, and then we're moving outwards. My goal for this video was to sort of like speak about this moment and then the bigger context of this moment, because there's a lot that's changing. I think there's a lot that's changing just like in the world, in the US. We're very aware of this right now. Okay, so Jupiter and Saturn are currently in Capricorn. They're in the later degrees of Capricorn, and they're very close together. So they're in a close conjunction. Now, this is an important transit, and often in mundane astrology, this is looked at as a new beginning, and there are a lot of associations between Jupiter and Saturn signifying certain world events, certain events in government and political structures, etc. So I share this because Jupiter is the planet that is about expansion, it's about abundance, it's about justice, even law, the courts. Like it has this humanitarian kind of symbol to it. Now, Saturn is about structure, it's about long-term things. It's about boundaries, it's about practicality. I also see Saturn as a symbol of devotion and long-term things that are sustainable and success as well. So when we put these together, it's a very solidifying kind of energy, and it's something that can be used. So these are also very important planets when we're looking like at an individual level at your life. So where is it that you are expanding, Jupiter? Where are you growing? Where is there abundance and prosperity and opportunity, Jupiter? So this has been, for the past 12 months or so, Jupiter has been in Capricorn. Jupiter stays in a sign for about 12 months or so. Jal, yes, there will be a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction as well. So that is important to factor in here as well, because Pluto is in Capricorn as well. Let's see. So, okay, so the other part of this is Saturn for you personally. So Saturn moves more slowly than Jupiter. So Saturn stays in a sign for about 2.5 years or so. So Saturn is going to be moving into Aquarius mid-December. Jupiter is also going to be moving into Aquarius mid-December. So we have kind of like this really interesting change that's happening where Saturn has been in Capricorn from December 2017. So for the past 2 years or so, or 3 years or so. And so they're both going to be making this change. So when you're looking at your personal transits, Saturn is a symbol of responsibility, restriction, boundaries, but also success. And when you commit yourself to something, Saturn is commitment, then so I'm hesitating because commitment can feel constraining or it can feel enlivening. And so I think that really depends on what it is that you're committing yourself to and how that aligns with your values. So this is why Saturn return for people, that transit when Saturn comes back around to the place that it was when you were born, that can be like a major time of realignment, because Saturn is about aligning with what it is that really is authentic and true to you, aligning the material world with the spiritual world. So when we're talking transits in your birth chart, Saturn can show where you need to put in a bit of extra effort and time with something. Now, often there is success that comes from that, or a sense of completion, or even a sense of confidence. I see Saturn also as associated with confidence. So this is a big change, these planets moving into Aquarius. This means that it is a change in how it is that they express, because the sign is kind of like an outlet for expression. And it also means that these planets are moving into a different place, a different house in your birth chart. So I'll have some tips on how to work with this, but just if you're curious about the dates, Saturn will move into Aquarius December 17th, and Jupiter will move into Aquarius December 19th. Now, we did get a little preview of Saturn in Aquarius. It did hop in for just a couple of months, so you may have gotten a preview earlier this year, but it will be firmly in Aquarius for the next 2.5 years or so. Okay, so I'm going to take a sip of water. So again, Aquarius may be another interesting place for you to look at. Now, before I give you the tips, I wanted to give you just a little preview of the 2021 Moon Journal. So this is something that I've published over the last few years. I took a little break in 2020, but I'm super excited. And so it's a journal that you can literally write in, and it has interpretations for every single new moon and every single full moon throughout the entire year of 2021. So this one, it has a similar setup as the other moon journals that I've done, but this time it has more emphasis on the planetary condition and other transits that are happening at the time, so that you get more of a depth of interpretation. It also has reflection questions, and I've included a lot of astrology basics information for people who are newer to astrology, or if you just want to learn a little bit more. And I've also included an ephemeris as well. So for people who are maybe a little more advanced with astrology, it hopefully will speak to you as well. So let's see, just want to move through. And so there's a section just about the moon. I think this is reversed when I'm holding it up, so I hope that you get the idea. So this is available on Amazon. There's a link in my bio, but I just wanted to kind of chat about it and answer any questions that you have. So the other piece of this is there's important dates. So I give an overview of the retrogrades, the eclipses, and the outer planet aspects that are happening in 21. So kind of like what I've done here just now, like an overview of like, okay, there's these are the retrogrades, these are outer planet transits that inform the theme of the year. And so like months to watch out for, you can mark retrogrades on your calendar and things like this. It is not digital. I'm figuring that out. So if you're waiting for a digital version, hang with me. So this is the retrograde, like Mercury retrograde, the dates, the sign, a little interpretation, eclipses. And so if you guys want a digital version, please let me know, because that will further spur me to investigate that a little bit more. I'm a very like touchy-feely person, so I really love having like a hard copy like this. But if you do want digital, let me know, and that will like kind of light a fire under me to figure that out. As some of you know, I'm currently in my Master's of Counseling Psychology program, so my time, like, you know, I kind of am like, you know, one day at a time. You get what I mean. Okay, so this page will tell you about, so this is New Moon in Capricorn, January, interpretation of the moon sign, the aspects to the moon, the planets that are aspecting the moon, other transits that are happening, an interpretation that usually starts here and it goes through here, a little quote, and then an image of the chart and some reflection questions. And then this has like the exact dates. So exact dates, exact time when the moon is exact, and I have it in Pacific time, in Universal time, and then also Australian time. So hopefully that covers a lot. And then a blank page for you to write reflections. So this is really for you to to do what you want with. You can use it as sort of like a moon diary to like write things that are happening for you at the new moon. You can use it to set specific intentions. You can use it to do like tarot or oracle card pulls on the moon. If you have a magical practice, you can use it to document your magical spells or magical rituals, any ritual work that you do with the moon. It's really up to you on, working it into your life. And the idea is for this journal to be a place for you to go to regularly connect with yourself and to regularly align with the moon, but also the planetary cycles as well, because I do talk a lot about what's happening astrologically, if there's a retrograde, if there's other planets that are making an aspect, like if it's a new moon in Capricorn, but Venus is also in Capricorn and it's making an aspect to, let's say it's making a trine to Uranus. We talk about that as well because that is something that's present. Okay, so, and then there's some basic things. Angel says, I prefer paper to make notes. Yeah, me too. I love writing in my books. I do too. I love like highlighting in books that I own. Awesome. Okay, cool. So astro basics. Glyphs, planets, rulership, aspects, the elements, the modes, the houses, eclipse, and retrograde. So this is the astro basics section that I'm reading to you. So for those of you that have taken classes with me, you know that I want you to be exposed to astrology as much as possible. So this means like the glyphs and the rulerships and things like this. And I know that it won't always stick, but I feel like the more that you like look at a chart like this, the more that it starts to integrate into your mind. And even if purely at an unconscious level. So I feel like those things are important because then it starts to speak to you. It's like you're learning a language. So this is a table of, of glyphs. So the planet, some of you expressed interest in, learning about the rulerships and the domicile, when something is in fall, when something is exalted, etc. So I have included that here. So I put the name plus the glyph. So this is like an easy reference. You can order this on Amazon. The link is in my bio in Instagram, or on Amazon you can search 2021 Moon Journal Shauna McGrath, and then you'll find it. Also, I've included a page that has, let's see, what page is this? The sign, the mode, the element, and then the rulership and some keywords there. So like these pages I feel like are so simple, but they're so important and so key. Some of you may have taken our, our astrology class, like here on Sundays with me and Shannon Agonza, my dear friend Shannon Agonza, and we talked about all of this. And when you have these basics, you can make your own interpretations. Again, it's like learning a language. Little cheat sheet for the aspects. That's super. Some of you have talked about aspects as well. Keywords for the planets. So for each planet, there is a long list of keywords, information on the rulerships. Some of you have asked about that. Angel says, I miss your astrology classes. I know, me too. Nat asks, are you giving astrology classes again? It is highly likely. I will say yes, I just don't know when. I've been planning an astrology basics, like an entire course for reading your chart, but I don't know when that's going to happen. So I'm hoping sometime in the spring, but we'll see. More information on the aspects, what those mean. So this again is like a nice reference, elements and the modes. Let's see. Okay. And keywords on the houses. So this is really helpful, especially if you are tracking the lunar cycles through your chart. This is like super helpful. Information on the eclipses. So kind of like information about the south node, information about the north node, and what to expect, how the solar eclipse is different than the lunar eclipse, and etc. Kind of like just nice basics to help you understand what is actually happening with an eclipse. And then similar for retrogrades. So if you've taken classes with me, you know that I think it's so important to know the speed of the planets, because that helps you know what's important. It helps you discern what's important versus what's not. Okay, I feel like this is getting too long. But anyways, I'll share just a few other things. New moon goal setting guide worksheet, which if you've taken my new moon classes, you know that I use that. Weekly planning with planetary days, which I love. Daily planning with the moon signs, which I also use a lot. And then an ephemeris. So if you are like want to take your astrology to the next level and you already know the glyphs and things like that, that's helpful as well. So again, you can purchase that via the link in my bio on Instagram. The link will be in the description if you're watching this on YouTube. What else did I want to say? It's also available on Amazon. You can search 2021 Moon Journal, Shauna McGrath. Nat says, so the shorter the move, the less important. Can you elaborate on what you mean? I think you mean the quicker the transit, the less important. And then I'll answer that. Okay. So tips for the next several months. We could say like the tips for the rest of this year. I have 3 tips for you. Nat says the planet. So the shorter the move, the less important. Yeah, so the quicker the transit. Okay, yes. So when we're talking about planetary speed, this is important when you're looking at transits and when we're talking about retrogrades. So the slower moving planets, so like Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, even Saturn, I would say, when they are retrograde, it's less important because they are so slow that they go retrograde for such a long period of time that it's kind of like it feels like normal, versus Mercury goes retrograde and it feels more dramatic. It kind of feels like you pull the emergency brake, you know what I mean, versus when you're easing down on the brake. And so I talk about that a lot more in the Moon Journal. In contrast, when we're looking at transits or when we're looking at like a natal chart, the things that move quickly are more important. So it's kind of like the flip. So like the moon, the ascendant, Mercury, they are more important in your birth chart because they're going to be more personal to you, versus Pluto moves so slow that someone born within the same 12 months as you is going to have Pluto in relatively the same spot. So hopefully that makes sense. Cool. Good question. Really good question. All right. So tip number 1 for the next couple of months, rest of the year. I want you to contemplate what is opening versus closing for you. So where is something progressing? Where are there new opportunities? Where, in contrast, does it feel like there's an ending that's happening? Where does it feel like there's something that is closing or declining, or you're being encouraged to let go? Now, this is in part because we're talking about the eclipses. So the eclipses are a symbol of growth and expansion and decline. So like growth and decline. So I want you to notice like what's happening, and there may be more emphasis on growth, more emphasis on decline, depending on what's happening in your life, where you're at now, and how this is working in your birth chart. Tip number 2, I want you to review your challenges and successes from December 2017 to now. So this is a Saturn cycle, or not a Saturn cycle, it's a Saturn transit, I guess we'll say. So Saturn moved into Capricorn December 2017. It will be moving out of Capricorn in December 2020. So what kinds of challenges, what kinds of successes, what have you learned, and how do you want to move forward from this? I think it's really important to reflect on Saturn and what it is that, not just where things have been difficult, but where we have gained from success. And this can give you more information about how Saturn works for you in general. Tip number 3, I want you to contemplate what your values are and why. So part of this is the new moon in Scorpio. We're going to bring it back in to the short-term new moon in Scorpio. And a part of this is preparing for eclipse season as well. So what is it that you value? What is important to you? What is priority for you right now? Where do you want to dedicate your time? This is really important when we're talking about new moon energy, because you have an opportunity to bring in your energy and to move it out in a very specific way. Now, I want you to consider where your values come from. Why do you have those? Because when we're talking about the eclipses being in Gemini and Sagittarius, these signs are about information and they're about beliefs, like especially Sagittarius. It's about belief systems, it's about culture, it's about taking in data and information, making it your own, and then moving forward. So this is also about being aware of our cultural context and our cultural belief system. So the things that are important to you, are those personal? Are those influenced by your family, by your upbringing, by your friends, by your career? Like where are you being influenced, and what is coming from deep inside of you? So I want you to think about that. What are your values and why? Where do they come from? That feels like a good place to end for today. I am wishing you a wonderful new moon. Happy new moon in Scorpio. Wishing you so much love and success and empowerment and prosperity and health, comfort, safety, and anything else that you need in the coming month and in the rest of the year. Again, if you want to check out the 2021 Moon Journal, you can find that via the link in my bio or the description below. I'm going to post this on YouTube and Instagram so you can watch it later if you like. Wishing you so much love, and I'll see you soon.